Star Fox Command on the Nintendo DS is pretty much agreed to be the worst Star Fox game ever created for a multitude of reasons, with the touchpad controls and 9 different endings leading the list of garbage. For everyone who never knew this game existed, you heard that right. This game has 9 endings depending on your choices in the story, but the developers have confirmed that none of them are canon. And good riddance too, because nearly all of them are poorly written tragedies with ridiculous details we're just supposed to accept as true. The gameplay itself is an enhanced version of nearly all the ideas from Star Fox 2, which at the time was still unreleased. But just like that game, the map takes on a turn-based strategy element where you guide Fox and friends to intercept squadrons of enemies and missiles, which then turn into all-range mode skirmishes against forgettable enemies composed of random polygons. It's a slow, tedious, and repetitive process that reduces the beloved Star Fox gameplay to like 30-second instances of flying a plane with a stylus over and over again. And there's no silly voice acting to give it energy or a sense of narrative progression. Instead, the game opts for the series' beginning gibberish sounds, ultimately creating a lifeless set of moving objects on the screen. This is where the bandwagon haters will shout out loud, "Isn't that every Star Fox game?"
Cocky little freak!
But whatever your opinion on the franchise is, it's clear that the silly banter and storytelling through character dialogue is what saves it from being just another boring airplane shooting game, which is why Star Fox 64 is so memorable and still quoted to this day.
It's quiet. Too quiet. Be careful, it's a trap! Use bombs wisely!
So how does Star Fox Command save itself from the core dumpster fire mechanics it's built upon? Well, the answer is quite simple. Where the execution is poor and held back by the horrible touchscreen gimmick, some of the ideas are an excellent step in the right direction. At the very least, you have to credit the game for trying to expand the Star Fox universe and its mechanics. Something the internet would also whine about over a decade later when the series rebooted with Star Fox Zero. Command follows the example of its predecessor, Starfox Assault on the GameCube, by having team briefings both before and after missions, giving the lovable space animals a chance to express themselves with dialogue chains far longer than the simple quotes of Star Fox 64. While the narrative is not nearly as polished as Star Fox Assault, the corny personalities we've come to love from these characters still shines through, whether it's Falco barking ham-related insults to Pigma, "We'll never lose to a breakfast side dish like you," or everyone in the universe in total disbelief that Slippy Toad has a fiancé. "You don't know that, Fox." "Well, we can make quite a list of the things you don't know, Slippy." "Oh yeah, well at least I have a girlfriend." "Slippy, that's the most ridiculous thing." "It's true, Slippy's fiancé is on Aquas." Like how Peppy doubted it. "Are you serious? My goodness." "Yeah, see, I'm not a big liar." Or even Peppy Hare getting too excited for adventure in his old age that he forgets that Fox is technically the leader. It's enough of a small chuckle to look forward to between all the tedious gameplay moments, at least. But hang on, the gameplay at its core might be boring trash, but it has a fantastic idea that is honestly the entire selling point of the game. Taking inspiration from Star Fox 2, you can play as every single pilot in existence, including the bad guy squadron Starwolf, and even the offshoot side characters like Cat Monroe and Bill Gray. Star Fox 2 marginally differentiated characters by either giving them a blue or a red R-Wing, and slightly adjusted their shield and boost meters. Star Fox Command, however, gives every character a totally unique ship to fit their personality, and the type of laser that is fired, the type and amount of lock-on, their smart bomb capacity, total amount of shields, and total boost are all statistics that change per character. This design choice can only be praised as it helps differentiate character personalities further and gives the player more variety than simply always being stuck as the generic hero Fox McCloud. Personally, ever since I played Star Fox 64, I always wanted to be able to play as the other pilots or even the Starwolf squadron, and it feels great to make them all as skilled as they're supposed to be, rather than simply hearing them cry for help like in every other game in the series. Falco's ace pilot persona is reflected in his multi-lock ability, allowing him to blast away 5 or more targets in one shot, a massive skill that you immediately miss when you go back to playing as Fox. Slippy Toad's mechanical genius is reflected in the fact that he has equipped a plasma cannon to his R-Wing called the Bullfrog, which decimates even huge bosses faster than any other pilot's lasers, especially when combined with his 3 smart bomb capacity and his extremely high defense. That's right, Slippy's actually a very good pilot in this game, and even single-handedly saves the planet Aquas to protect his fiancée in one of the short story endings. Peppy Hare is still the crazy old rabbit that we love, spouting his usual lines like, "That one ain't coming back anytime soon," while mowing down crap with his twin lasers and barrel rolling just for the joyride. As for the Star Wolf team, it's quickly apparent that Wolf himself is better than Fox, with his multi-lock similar to Falco and twin lasers like Peppy. His cronies Leon and Panther are a bit interesting, actually. Leon the Lizard Assassin has absolutely no standard laser at all, but rather an auto lock-on that fires burst shots at targets. Panther is the exact opposite, having no lock-on at all, but an incredibly powerful burst-fire laser. They're a clunky pair, but it's kinda neat to see the differences and adapt to situations accordingly. And speaking of that, the turn-based gameplay lends itself well to this mechanic of playing as everyone in the universe, even if it would be much cooler in the usual Starfox live-action gameplay. But the strategy element really isn't that bad. It's kind of fun to plan and draw the routes for the pilots at play. It's just that in its very nature, turn-based mechanics take centuries to finally be finished. And this game in particular is very stale with what you actually do with those turns, which is collect nonsensical enemy cores and fly through red boxes. It's not the first time that Starfox has changed genres, but I think the world has made it very clear that they don't like this one. But let's talk about the other big area that the world hates this game for, the story. Starfox Command takes place at the very end of all things Star Fox, with Andross and the Aporoids completely eradicated, and the entire Starfox team themselves have disbanded. Crystal from Star Fox Adventures and Assault has been kicked out of the team because Fox felt it wasn't safe for her. This results in basically the two of them hating each other, and Crystal's entire personality is bitterly cold and completely opposite of how she was in the other games. To get back at Fox, she joins Starwolf and starts dating Panther. Slippy has a fiancé, and Peppy is the new Cornerian general since General Pepper has gone ill. And Falco, he just roams space unsure of who he is and feeling kinda pissed off about it. Eventually, a new threat to the Lilat system shows itself in the form of a fish race known as the Anglers, forcing Fox to half-heartedly get the team back together again. This is where another really cool idea comes into play that unfortunately is kinda like a double-edged sword. The player gets to choose what happens in the story to a degree, expanding even further on the usual idea of branching pathways in traditional Star Fox games. Customization based on player choices like this is something that is usually praised in games. But Star Fox Command throws it all away with very poor writing and events completely out of left field. First of all, the robot in charge of piloting the Great Fox, Rob64, just magically appears with whoever you decide is the captain, and nobody acknowledges it. For example, if you make choices that put Starwolf in the spotlight, Rob64 and the Great Fox will be with them, and not once is it explained why or even pointed out by any of the characters. So the bad guys have the good guy ship and the good guy robot, but we don't know why. They didn't fight for him, he's just there. Other times, stuff just happens that is clearly the developers throwing their hands in the air and saying, why the heck not, nobody's gonna play this trash anyway. For example, in one situation, Peppy Hare's daughter Lucy is left all alone to defend Corneria in her father's absence. Rob64 says that the entire Cornerian army is unavailable, which makes no sense, but okay. And then suddenly Crystal, Cat Monroe, and Slippy's fiancée Amanda appear right on cue for a display of girl power, despite all other situations in the game likely placing these characters elsewhere in the galaxy and not on Corneria. I mean, sure, it's a neat little aside to play as all the female pilots in one defense mission and get this weird stay-at-home girlfriend ending. No, really, they literally stay at home and bake food in celebration of the boys saving the world. But there's absolutely no rhyme or reason to why people make the decisions they do, or even why they say what they say sometimes. We're just supposed to accept it as logical. Another example of this is an instance where James McLeod, Fox's deceased father, suddenly becomes playable and even says good job to other pilots. yet nobody even acknowledges he appeared. Fox doesn't have his usual crisis or anything, he just appears and then vanishes as a mere gameplay Easter egg. This also creates debate over which of the 9 endings is the true canon ending. Once upon a time, an issue of Nintendo Power magazine claimed the default ending that all players are forced to get on the very first playthrough was the one that was canon. In this ending, the Starfox team never even goes to Venom to address the real issue, the final boss doesn't show his true form, and the final words of the ending show Crystal as an emotional wreck, breaking up with Fox to run off and be with Panther and the rest of the Starwolf team. It's hard to believe Crystal would actually do that when compared to her past 2 entries in the series, which is just one of many examples of throwaway writing in this game. Luckily, lead designer Dylan Cuthbert, who was actually one of the head programmers on the very original Starfox, has since come out to say that none of the endings in this game are canon, as they take place on some sort of alternate timeline. But even knowing that, there are at least 2 or 3 endings that seem plausible as a final bookmark in the Starfox saga, such as the one where Fox retires and has a son named Marcus who grows up to follow in his footsteps, forming a new Starfox team alongside Slippy's son and Peppy's granddaughter. And then there's another ending where simply Slippy's fiancée Amanda joins the team, and Andross's grandson Dash begins building a new empire on Venom. So it's basically setting the stage for the usual Starfox story that we already know, but for a new generation. But even the gutter trash endings have some neat ideas that at least make a half-assed effort to expand Starfox lore, lending perhaps good material to be used in a future, hopefully way better game, or even maybe a spin-off game. The character Vivian Hare is introduced as the wife of Peppy and mother to Lucy, but who passed away from an unknown illness. Yeah, it's just another face value random fact with absolutely no meat, but it's there. The pilot Dash Bowman, who is revealed to be Andross's grandson, skates a fine line between good and evil, and he's even trained by Fox and Falco, creating room for a more multifaceted villain in the future than his grandfather Andross. In another ending, we see Starwolf steals all of the glory, stripping Fox of all of his pride and happiness. As a result, he and Falco run away to a brand new planet far away from everything called Papatoon. We get an image of Fox moping over a plate of some sort of hors d'oeuvres and some kind of a beverage, raising curiosity about the street life on not just this planet, but all of the hospitable planets in the Lilat system. What if they made a spin-off adventure RPG where you could go street level in these kind of places and explore some shops and order food? That would be so cool, man! And speaking of spin-offs, this very same ending shows Fox and Falco joining the G-Zero high-speed racing world, which is really the exact same thing as F-Zero, another neglected Nintendo franchise that already features a Starfox Easter egg cameo in the racer James McCloud, who drives an R-Wing type vehicle. Not long ago even, there was a solid rumor that this Starfox racing game was actually in development, but sadly it never came to be true. And finally, similar to the planet Papatoon, another ending in this game shows a bitter outcast Crystal turn rogue and flee to a planet called Q. Sure, it's just a random name with no history whatsoever, similar to how Star Wars has tons of planets that are never explored. But that's exactly the point. It's at least name-dropped potential to be used in a better game in the future. And well, really this brings me to my conclusion because there's not much more to defend here. Starfox Command is a repetitive gameplay disaster doomed by touchscreen controls and horribly lazy writing that mostly destroys the Starfox universe as we know it. But at least it has the balls to offer new suggestions and let you play as any pilot you want, something I personally think is incredibly vital to the series. I think in the future, this concept can be better implemented in mission phases rather than turn-based gameplay. So perhaps in Phase 2 of Corneria, for example, you might have to take control of Falco instead of Fox. Or maybe there could be on-the-fly swapping between the pilots by pressing a direction on the D-pad, and you could have boss fights centered around utilizing all of the team members. So that's really the small amount of hidden gold behind Starfox Command. It may have missed the mark pretty hard, but it presents new ideas at bare bones face value that could be expanded on down the road, especially when combined with the ideas from Starfox Assault on GameCube. Which, speaking of, if you'd like to hear more about the overlooked potential that Starfox Assault had, you could check out my older video that dissects every good idea implemented in that game that could help push the series forward. I hope you got a little bit of something out of this, even if the game is gutter trash, and thanks for watching.